All right, so today I wanted to share some notes that I took when listening to some of the work of Dr. David Hawkins on levels of consciousness, which I've been a big fan of for a long time. And as I've been taking a deeper dive into it, I often write notes on, I'll hear something, then I'll have my own thoughts and feelings around it. And sometimes it will spark certain ideas to extrapolate on what I'm hearing. And in today's video, I wanted to share some of the notes that I'd written down that felt quite illuminating when it comes to our thoughts, where our thoughts stem from in the first place, and even the term my thought, and how the identification with the idea of the thoughts being mine can dynamically create the ownership of them, which makes it very hard to let go of them. So many of us can experience habitual thoughts which keep us in a continued pattern of feeling that might not be serving us or might not at all be the experience that we want to have of life. In order for our feelings to change, we have to be willing to think different thoughts. But what is it that changes our ability to think? What is it that changes the thoughts that arise? How often do you have thoughts where it seems to appear from nowhere? What is that? Where is it coming from? So these are some of the notes that I'd taken. These are some of the ideas that I want to share to see if any of this rings true in you and to see if you can apply it to start to transcend the levels of consciousness to increase the quality of thought, which is going to change dynamically the feelings and the experience you have of life. All right, let's get into it. The thoughts I'm having are not my thoughts. They belong to the field of thought. So, two things here. One, my. Even the term my thoughts reinforces the thoughts as belonging to me. If they are mine, there is more identification and ownership with them, making them as me, which is the nature of the ego. It is to separate, therefore, desires to own and to have, including the ownership of my thoughts. So, what if we were to rephrase this? Maybe something like the thoughts I'm having or the thoughts I'm experiencing. But that raises the question, if the thoughts belong to the field of thought, am I experiencing the thoughts or are the thoughts experiencing me? So, little hypothesis. So, if thoughts belong to the field of thought, are there levels of thought? Do they exist in different fields? Do certain thoughts only exist in certain fields, which could be paradigms? Is the determining factor to what thoughts enter me, does that come down to the paradigm that I'm attuned to? If all thoughts vibrate and calibrate at a certain frequency, then the host and the field have to match, which means to vibrate at the same resonant frequency for the thought to even enter the host and the vessel, the person. If so, trying to change thoughts from the same paradigm or frequency or vibration is incredibly hard because I'm almost not choosing them. I'm aligned to a field or frequency or vibration of thought that is entering me. Now, if this is true, the only focus for me needs to be on the level of consciousness I'm attuned to. My attunement equals my vibration or frequency. This equals the thoughts that are able to move through or enter me because they have to match. And from here, I actually did some impressive artwork. You can see that art is something that's I take quite seriously. So there's the host or the vessel, there's the person, and everything around is the field, and in that is a field of thought. And we can just hold that as a way of visualizing this concept. So the hypothesis is that the only thing that is required to change the thoughts I experience is to change the level of consciousness I'm in. This is what will alter and shape my experience of life. First, internally, so the energy that will lead to the thoughts, that will lead to my feelings, which will influence my behaviors. The behaviors will then align with that paradigm and create a life situation that is of a resonant frequency. I pulsate an energetic frequency based on the internal attunement. In ways, I'm a tuning fork, or maybe rather, a tuning vessel. And whatever that vessel is attuned to is what can enter and be expressed through me. So if we imagine an engine of a car, we can remap the engine where basically it gets plugged in and it gets remapped. So it gets attuned, almost recoded, and the hardware doesn't change. But what does change is how the engine is going to perform, its horsepower. So my question was, how do we remap ourselves? How do we set the vibratory field in which we're attuned to? So, one way would be state meditation, chakra meditation, going into the energy field and allowing the energy centers to open. When we actually do that, and when we feel the energy to be able to move through the channel of our body, straight away we can feel in a different state. This is the power of breath work, meditation, or state altering or state expanding substances. And the clue is in the title there. Now, I don't suggest that we become reliant upon them, but very often when we use things like ayahuasca or psilocybin or LSD, we can have these huge state altering experiences where the thoughts we have are completely different. It allows us to expand beyond the limited kind of container that we might have held ourselves in. So, it seems as though the heart is the bridge. Although we associate thoughts with the mind coming from the brain, what if they are more connected to the self in the lower three chakras? It seems as though intelligence only gets us so high on the map of consciousness. It gets us to reason, to understanding that. Then beyond that, we go to love, which is at the state of the heart. It's almost like at that point, we have to leave the thinking mind and we enter into love to move through the highest levels of consciousness of love, joy, peace, and enlightenment. So these were some of the ideas that came up in what I was reading. And where I landed with this was my primary focus being on my state, my inner state. Now, sometimes, when we have certain thoughts, we have the feelings that match, and then we can spiral down. That's very easy to happen. And we can use the mind to spiral back up to get as high as the point of understanding. If we can understand why a situation is happening, why someone is behaving a certain way, from a place of understanding, we can actually enter into compassion, into empathy, which really is now going from the mind into the feeling center, into the heart, and we start to expand from there. So this made me think, why would we ever make a decision in a lower level of consciousness if we want to exist in a higher realm? Meaning, if I'm in a fear-based state and I make a decision in that, when I'm not in that fear-based state, how much am I going to regret making that decision? One of the other things that I noticed is that an important thing for me in my life in general is feeling like I can express how I'm feeling and to feel like there's a safe space for me to be able to do that. And partly that was due to not really feeling like I had that safety growing up. So I then created that to be a priority. But what I noticed was one of the ways this can show up for me in a relationship that actually, in retrospect, was problematic is that I would feel the need to be able to express myself in that relationship about how I'm feeling, not realizing the feelings were related to the thoughts I was having, and that was related to the level of consciousness, the state, the paradigm I was attuned to in that moment. And what it made me realize is that actually, I don't always have to react or respond or even believe the thoughts I'm having, which lead to the feelings I'm experiencing. What I want to bring my awareness to is what level of consciousness am I in right now? Am I in a fear-based state? And if so, it would make sense that I'm going to have fearful thoughts. If I'm feeling anxious, what kind of thoughts am I going to have? If I'm feeling angry, if I'm feeling pride, what are the thoughts that are arising? And then what feelings is that going to bring up even more? And do they really need to be expressed? Because if I take the time to go away, to attune myself, to go from these lower level chakras here, which keep me in the lower levels of consciousness, and start to move up. And I start to open, maybe through breath. If I start to open the energy body, if I start to feel the energy in my body settle, to relax, to move out of the thoughts that I'm having, if those thoughts settle, do the feelings settle? And if those feelings settle, do they feel quite so real? Does it feel quite as necessary for them to be expressed? As they settle, as they dissolve, can I start to now move beyond them and rest in the trust that really everything is unfolding exactly in the way in which it's meant to? That there is a divine plan and orchestration that is bringing things into my life that might create tension, and it's doing it for me to look at, not to resist, but to look at and to see in what place in my life am I holding on to a lie that is preventing me from existing in the higher levels of consciousness, in love, in joy, in peace, and in enlightenment, which really is to exist in heaven on earth. What if the thing that was creating a lower level of consciousness and the thoughts to match and the feelings to match was actually a gift for me to bring awareness to places in my life that I've not fully surrendered to? Now I'm starting to get a level of understanding that makes me see it differently. Oh, and from there, I can start to feel an expansion through the body. I can actually start to feel energy move through my body differently now. From my chest, and actually my throat now feels more open. And you may be able to hear there's a slightly different resonance in my voice. And now I can draw the energy up more to the third eye, and I can see things differently. Now I can feel more connected. I can always feel the energy move all the way out through the crown chakra, realizing the much greater plan I'm aware of, that I'm a part of. And I can start to feel the joy in that. And in that, I can start to access a much deeper level of peace. Ah, and then in that state of peace, it becomes difficult to start to connect with fearful thoughts. As I change the attunement of my body, of the energetic field that I'm aligned with, and you may be able to hear it now in my tonality and the frequency of my voice. It feels very different. And in my opinion, this is how we have these kairos moments. If chronos is linear time, to break out of that, which kind of is like moving through content, we can change the context, and we have a kairos moment where we can have these vertical movements to see the world differently, to attune myself differently, to realize the tension and the resistance that I held around something in particular was all to do with the state that I was attuned to. And that isn't permanent, that those thoughts aren't actually my thoughts. They belong to the field of thought that I was attuned to. And if I just take 5 minutes, I can start to shift the attunement. I can plug myself in and start to remap. I can change the horsepower, the output of the engine without changing the hardware. I can start to remap, recode, so it performs differently. And just in those few moments, right now, I can feel a huge shift energetically in my own body. And it's a beautiful reminder of our capability and our capacity to create a dynamic level of difference in our experience of life in any moment. And if you're able to feel any of my energy, you might actually feel, if you're sensitive to energy, you might feel an attunement where there's a portal that's being created for you to enter in here as well. And if you can feel that, I invite you maybe after this video just to sit in that and to feel that and to notice the shift in the quality of the thoughts that are arising. And maybe you'll find that certain quality of thoughts actually cease to exist. What I would like to do as we wrap up here is extend an invitation for anyone that feels a calling to this type of inner work and transformation over a longer time period to check out the link below for the Freedom Within Mastermind, which is a 6-month coaching program that I facilitate, where we really go deep into these practices, where we go into the past, into our early formative years, and we start to break free from certain patterns of thoughts, of feelings, and also how to attune our energetic body to new ways. So we can really rid ourselves of limiting perspectives, viewpoints, and energies. So we can really feel a deep freedom to be who we are in truth, in the full expansive expression of who we are. And then from there, to have the freedom to really become what your heart yearns for, from a place of being the expression of love that we all are. If that's something that calls to you, check out the link, find out more about it, and you can actually schedule a free discovery call with me where we can have an opportunity to touch base and to connect and feel each other's energy. Because I think that's paramount and primary, that there really is an energetic fit and alignment. And from there, I can tell you more about it, any questions that you might have, if you do feel interested. The place that I come from really is absolutely no pressure. I do truly believe that we are being guided in a divine orchestration. And from that place, the exact right people that are meant to be in the mastermind are going to be a part of it. I just have to be open. As a vessel, I have to be open to receive anyone that wants to come in, and those people are open to receive the gift of deep inner transformation. So if that calls out to you, then go ahead and check the link out below and schedule a call, and it'll be my absolute delight to connect. I hope this video offered you some value, and if you liked it, please hit the like button. And if you haven't yet subscribed, do that. Thank you truly for sharing your time and energy with me. I know that our attention really is the most valuable commodity in the world right now. And if you're still here and you've given me your attention without the sound effects and the changing of the angles and the things to make the video dynamically captivating, if you're able to give me your attention through our sharing of energy, then that means a lot to me. So thank you so much once again. And until next time, much love.